Hey there gamers! Today we have a preview of a Macaraccoon. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of a Macaraccoon. So thank you to Memphis Games for sponsoring this video. This is a current Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned. And this is also a prototype copy in front of me, so all rules, components, things like that are subject to change. But with that, this is Macaraccoon. Now this is going to be a competitive game where you are building out different dishes by collecting the ingredients and then serving them as different orders. But the entire point of the game is that Macaraccoon is retiring, so we're trying to find his spiritual successor and who can satisfy as many customers as possible and earn their love in the form of hearts. So players are going to try to be doing so by gaining as many ingredients as they can, serving these orders, but depending on the orders that you serve and where they're placed, it will give you different benefits. So you may choose to serve a customer that's been not here that long and they may have just placed their order, which will get you more hearts but cost you some sugar, or those orders that have been waiting here the longest and expect to be served won't cost you too much, but they won't give you any extra hearts either. So here you can see the game is set up for 3 whiskers here, and the players are going to have their player boards where you have 3 different dish areas that you are able to play into, as well as your sugar jar. Now the entire point of the game is that you're going to be collecting ingredients from this area here, and then you're going to be placing them into these different dishes, creating these different things that are going to become orders that you are going to serve to the 2 different lines of customers here. Now, before we get into the different actions of the game, it's important for you to know the 3 different types of ingredients that we're working with. So there are toppings, and as you can imagine, they should be on top. There are also spreads that go in between, and then there are bases, such as like your pancakes, your lemon tarts that you're putting everything on top of. So for these different orders, you're going to be building this out, but the way you place them into your different dishes is very, very important. Because as soon as you put 2 different ingredients together, they become stuck together, and they can only go in that particular order. So you can't put a topping underneath a base. That would be crazy. And once they are stuck together, you can't separate them. So sometimes you're going to be playing ingredients for stuff such as activating the different whiskers that are here to help you. But it's really important to know that when you are trying to put these together, you may be going for things that other players are going for as well. So when you are combining them, make sure that you are looking around the table as well to see what other players are doing, because you might try to go for a more unique order to make sure you're able to serve it. Now, this phase where you're able to combine things, you are able to do freely. So where we have these 2 different ingredients here, even if it wasn't our turn, we would be able to combine them together to be one dish now in this area. We would not be able to separate it, so if we did want our kiwis for something else, we're out of luck, but you can see where we are building toward these 2 different dishes. So you might do that because you want some room, but where you might not have to do it quite yet, you might choose to leave them separated until you're forced to combine them, because you might keep your eye out for what other players have as well. So the first action that players are able to do, and again, you're only able to do 1 action on your turn, but the first option of actions is going to be gaining ingredients. So to gain ingredients, you're going to choose from the empty area. Anything that is adjacent to it is something that you are able to choose. So right now we would be able to choose this cheesecake or this cream and add it over here. Now we do have this as well, which may help us with this order, so this one wouldn't be a bad one to take. So once we choose that we're going to be taking this one, we're actually able to replenish from this area as well. Now, I don't really want to help my opponents or anything and give them too much, so I think I'm just going to put some blueberries out here, and then we will take this for ourselves. So again, where we have only 3 ingredients and the 3 different dishes, I wouldn't combine them yet, but as you are running out of space and you might want to start doing certain things, you probably will start combining your different dishes. Now, the pantry over here is where you're grabbing those ingredients from, and this actually doesn't restock until it's empty, so it can be very strategic to see what you choose from here, because some cards that you want, you might actually wait and let your opponents place them out for you so you're able to get them a little bit easier. Now, the second action players are able to do is serve a customer. So you're able to serve a customer instead of taking an ingredient on your turn, and we're just going to take this over here from our pantry. So we'll pretend that we already had this. But for example, if this player did have this completed dish here on their turn, they would be able to say, I'm going to choose to serve instead, and discard all 3 of these ingredients, claiming this order over here. Now you can see there's a couple of symbols over here on the board, but the first thing that's going to happen is that this is going to be 2 points for us at the end of the game. So every order that you're able to collect is going to be points stacking for you, but immediately we're also going to be able to get 2 sugar. Now I haven't been able to talk about what sugar does yet, but we will in a moment, but for now we are going to take those 2 sugar for ourselves. Now, one thing that the sugar would have been able to do for us is allowed us to skip over other orders. So if this order had been in the back and we still wanted to serve it, we would have had to been able to place a sugar on each of the orders that we are skipping, and you can see that on this symbol here. So you're only able to do it if you have enough sugar to be able to pass, and that can be a really strategic advantage for players when the higher heart orders come out, especially if you're able to satisfy that order and serve it. You may want to skip over, because another benefit that you're able to do is if you do pay the sugar to skip over orders, you will gain the amount of hearts in the column of the order that you are fulfilling. So if you did fulfill the very last order on the end, you would pay 2 sugar, but you would also gain 2 additional hearts, and those would be physical hearts that you would grab here. So if you did complete the middle order, for example, you would only get 1 heart, but it would only cost you 1 sugar to skip this first order. Now, when an order is fulfilled, this player is going to hold on to this, keeping their hearts visible for all players to see, and then these are going to slide down, meaning that they're a little bit easier to fulfill now, and a new one will come out to fill the empty spot. Now, the third action that players are able to do is very special, where you're able to ask one of these whiskers for help. So there are the 4 whiskers that are currently in play, and there are more that will come out as these are used, but you can see that they have different costs in their little banners. So, for example, this one would cost 1 sugar or 2 ingredients, this one is 2 sugar or 2 ingredients, and after you're able to pay the cost for the whisker that you're choosing to do, you're able to do 2 different things in whatever order you would like. So the first is going to be that you can grab an ingredient from the column that that whisker is in. So you'll be able to grab an ingredient and then you would replace it immediately from the pantry. And then another thing you're able to do is use their ability. So just to give you an example of some of the abilities, our pandacotta over here is swap any 2 ingredients in the kitchen. So you're able to maneuver ingredients around, maybe moving something closer to something that you want to grab, and maybe moving it even into his column for you to then snatch with his column ability. Or you might also take something and put it somewhere that players may not need. So if you have a lot of players, for example, with like waffles or something, you might put more waffles close to this area because you could still benefit from them, but the other players might not need them. Another example is swap the topmost ingredient on one of your plating stations with one in the kitchen. So that's when you're able to swap these, and where it says the topmost, once things are stacked together, you're only able to swap that top one, because once they're together, they are completely stuck together and inseparable, because how would you be able to separate those ingredients? Now, Fudge Hog says, for the rest of this turn, serving an order costs no actions, meaning that you'd be able to perhaps serve multiple orders if you were able to do so with the plates in front of you. And finally, the Jellyfin is swap a kitchen ingredient with one from the pantry. Now, once that is used, it will come out of the row, they will slide down, the one on the left will get discarded if it wasn't the one used, and then more of the whiskers will come out. So there are plenty for players to be playing with for those to be triggered. Now, Macaraccoon may seem fun and calming as you're building out these different delicious dishes with all of these ingredients that are so fun and tasty for you to be grabbing off of the table, but there is going to be a time clock. So there are only 20 orders for there to be able to be fulfilled, meaning that it is first come, first serve, absolutely, and everyone is trying to fulfill those orders. So where you may have fun building out these different ingredients and grabbing the things you need to keep an eye on your opponents and the different whisker abilities that come out that you're able to pay for, because it really matters how many of those orders that you're able to get, because at the end of the game, once the end game is triggered, all players will have a final round to fulfill orders, and then your points are going to be based on the hearts on your orders as well as any extra hearts that you were able to get for skipping those earlier orders. So you'll have all of your hearts added up, and whoever has the most will win the game. But we didn't go over everything that sugar can do, so now let's talk about a sugar rush. Sugar in the game is going to be quite useful, and you fill it into your jar here, and you can see that you can only hold up to 9 sugar per game. So I did note that you're able to use it to skip over orders, and you're actually also able to use it when grabbing ingredients to skip over ingredients. So if you want something that is a little bit further than where you're able to grab from, you are also able to spend sugar to be able to do that. But one of the most fun parts about sugar is that it's able to give you an additional action. So when you do so, you have to pay the entire row of what's left of that sugar. So for example, here where we have 2 in the bottom row you are not able to deplete for a sugar rush, but we would be able to use this one as an additional action. But for example, if we had this much sugar here, we would actually, if we wanted to on our turn, be able to declare sugar rush and then spend this one for an extra action for that row, and then these 3 as an additional action for that row. So that really can make or break it toward the end of the game. It can be something that's very dangerous to do because you're spending a ton of sugar, and this can be very important when you're trying to skip those orders or trying to get the ingredients that you want. But at the end of the game, sugar isn't going to mean anything. It's not points for you. The hearts are going to be what matters. So those additional actions may be very, very important, especially if there's a certain ingredient out you need or an order that you really need to complete before someone else does. Now, as I noted, as the game goes on, players are going to have more and more ingredients. So you are going to be combining them, and you are able to discard them at any time. So if, for example, you have something that doesn't work with the other things that you have, once you start building a lot toward the end of the game, you are able to combine and discard at any point on your turn, or not on your turn, during anybody's turn, because that's a maintenance aspect that you're able to work with. So where it might not be advantageous and it might be a little bit wasteful, sometimes it might be necessary. Macaraccoon is going to be a fast-paced game where you're trying to make these different set collections that you're able to grab from the different ingredients to fulfill these orders before anyone else. Now, it can play very quickly, which means you're able to raid play it quite a bit, and I do think that these clear cards are very fun to play with. They're really fun to build out your different dishes and see how beautiful they're able to come out, because it's a bit of anticipation when you have certain things together and you're just waiting for that final piece, and when you're able to stack it all together, you can feel very, very accomplished like a chef. So if you'd like to see everything that they have planned, you can check out the Kickstarter link down below. This has been a preview for Macaraccoon. I'm Professor Meg, and I will see you all next time. Bye!